Saturday, February 11th of 2023, I noticed a southbound freight train on the UP Brooklyn subdivision in Eugene Yard, and it has BNSF power. Since the year 2017, I've been seeing more trains on the Union Pacific I-5 corridor south of Portland with orange BNSF locomotives leading. Many rail fans in the Willamette Valley, especially between Portland and Eugene, wonder if this is a detour train bypassing the Oregon trunk sub via Bend, or a run-through grain or feed train heading to points south in California. Adding to the rail traffic on Union Pacific's I-5 corridor are these BNSF detour grain trains. It's not uncommon to see foreign railroads leading unit grain and oil trains. Both unit grain and oil trains moving up and down the Willamette Valley are one of the trains most likely to have foreign power. Unit-covered hopper trains suggest that these are feed trains destined for chicken farm operations near Fresno, Modesto, or beyond. Typically, this is a trackage rights train, which means that the UP granted BNSF their permission to use their tracks. The BNSF interchanges and enters Union Pacific trackage via Lake Yard in Portland, so more than likely this grain train that I saw in Eugene is a Portland originator. Yeah, these are one of those interchange trains with a handoff in Portland at the Lake Yard. Both CN and Canadian Pacific do the exact same thing when moving their grain and oil trains between Canada and California. So technically, this is a Canadian grain train. It was handed off to the BNSF in Vancouver, BC, crossed into the US through Washington, and into Portland for a Union Pacific crew to take over at Lake Yard. So this exact grain train that I saw in Eugene with the BNSF orange locomotives, the train itself originated in Canada and was brought into Portland. Many railfan enthusiasts living along the I-5 corridor between Portland and points in California may first think that this is a rare and unusual train, but really, this is a regular train on the line. These 100-plus car long grain trains start their journey in either Alberta or Saskatchewan, move west to Vancouver, BC, to be handed off to the BNSF, then move down to Portland for Union Pacific crews to take over the train, so that the train will officially begin its trek down to California. Once the trains enter Fresno or Modesto, then the train will be handed off to another railroad to be taken to their final destination. Then once the trains are unloaded and emptied, they will be brought back north and do the same process in return. Because these grain trains heading south are heavily loaded and they gain weight, they add mid-train DPU locos between the 50th and the 51st car in Eugene, despite having their own DPU locomotives placed on the rear. Union Pacific will add their mid-train DPUs in the middle of BNSF grain trains in Eugene to help shove it over the hill south of Oak Ridge, because the hill is so steep that the train could slide back down. Since it's a BNSF train, the UP mid-train DPUs will be dropped off in Klamath Falls for a northbound UP train to pick up and return them to Eugene. Either that or UP crews stationed in Klamath Falls will take the mid-train DPUs back to Eugene Light Power, which means that those crews will have to board a UP train heading south to return back to their hometown. I know that since 2019 that the Union Pacific reinstated the manned helper sets stationed in Oak Ridge, which is 45 minutes away from Eugene, instead of running DPUs behind or in the middle of each of their single southbound trains between Portland and California. I think they do that just to save money. If you want to know what DPU stands for, it stands for Distributed Power Unit, which is a locomotive set which is controlled from the train's head end. Manned helpers, on the other hand, are totally different. They're like DPUs, except that they are independently controlled by separate crews, not controlled by the crew from the train's head end. Once manned helpers are done shoving a train over a steep hill, they will cut from the train, return back to their station, and await another train to assist. Because the availability of Oak Ridge helpers are limited, grain and oil trains coming from Canada often add mid-train helpers or DPUs in Eugene. Empty trains returning north don't need shovers because when they're empty, they are lighter. They're not as heavy as when they're loaded. Heavy loaded trains climbing up steep hills cannot defy gravity.